Welcome to Nuked Radio. This is episode 73. Today is Tuesday, November 20th, 2012. I'm your host, Christina Consolo. With me today is Jules, and Kurt returns from room 101 to help us play a clip later on in the show. Hi, guys.
Hi, Christina. How are you? Sorry, I was muted. I'm talking.
I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. My mind is not on this stuff right now. I'm thinking about food and cooking and family and all that good stuff. And I hope everybody else is too. So I want to get through all this bad news and then put it behind me today. Because we have, impending World War III going on. We have this crazy weather in the Pacific Northwest. We have a report of now a retinal detachment possibly from Fukushima. I'm going to get into that. The thyroid cancer signs, birth defects in Spokane, and where is the CDC data showing cancer statistics since Fukushima? It isn't on their website. In fact, we're going to try to call them and ask them where we can find that. First off, though, this Mideast conflict, Hamas has asked for a ceasefire. Don't hold your breath. And a worry, of course, is that this is going to escalate to a regional or world war. Syria, Turkey, Iran, Egypt. There was an attempted missile strike on Iran's reactor a couple of days ago, and they are now removing fuel from the reactor core. So whether or not it's to generate a weapon or because they're worried about a missile strike, I don't know. But even in the absence of nuclear weapons, the nuke plants are at risk. And Iran has said it in the past that it will destroy Israel's Dimona facility if they are attacked. I have a definition here that I want people to be aware of. This is something called the Samson Option. The Samson Option is Israel's alleged deterrence strategy of massive retaliation with nuclear weapons as a last resort against nations whose military attacks threaten its existence and possibly other targets as well. The phrase has also been used more generally to describe Israel's nuclear program. Commentators have also employed the term in reference to situations where non-nuclear, non-Israeli actors such as Saddam Hussein, Yasser Arafat, and Hezbollah have threatened conventional weapons retaliation. The name, of course, is in reference to the biblical character Samson. Israel refuses to confirm or deny that it has nuclear weapons or to describe how it would use them. An official policy of nuclear ambiguity, also known as nuclear opacity, this has made it difficult for anyone outside the Israeli government to definitively describe its true nuclear policy while still allowing Israel to influence the perceptions, strategies, and actions of other governments. In 2006, in his book The Culture of War, Martin Van Cravelin, a professor of military history at Israel's Hebrew University, wrote that since former United States Secretary of Defense Robert Gates admitted that Israel had nuclear weapons, any talk of Israel's nuclear weapons in Israel can lead to arrest, trial, and imprisonment. Thus, Israeli commentators talk about doomsday weapons and the Samson Option. So if you hear that mentioned, that's what it is. Now, any estimations of how many weapons Israel has is anywhere from 75 to 400. They can be launched from land, sea, and air, which gives Israel a second strike option even if much of their country is destroyed. Now here at home, people in the Pacific Northwest have been dealing with an atmospheric river of rain. An atmospheric river is a narrow corridor or filament of concentrated moisture in the atmosphere. It consists of narrow bands of enhanced water vapor transport, typically along the boundaries between large areas of divergent surface airflow, including some frontal zones in association with extratropical cyclones that form over oceans. The term was originally coined by researchers from MIT in the early 1990s to reflect the narrowness of the moisture plumes involved. And you look at it, it almost looks like a mushroom cloud hitting the Pacific Northwest. They really got some rain yesterday. In fact, Jules' favorite weatherman from the weatherspace.com, the guy that looks like Johnny Depp, Jules.
Oh, yeah. The Johnny Depp friendly weatherman. Well, it's Johnny Depp combined with, what's the guy from the book? Those books, the fantasy books and the castles. The kid
fantasy
with the
books.
Yeah, the kid with
Harry Potter?
Yeah, Harry Potter mixed
Harry Potter and Johnny Depp. I don't know. He looks more like Johnny Depp than
but he's got Harry Potter glasses.
I saw him when you told me that, but like, yeah, whatever, you know, when I saw him, I'm like, holy shit, he does look like Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
But he has a website called theweatherspace.com, and what he put on his site today was an upper-level lows forming south of Alaska, which is keeping intact through the week for major storms to continue to hit the Pacific Northwest in what is known as an atmospheric river scenario, or a river of tropical moisture. And of course, we're worried about how much of that moisture is laden with fallout. I did message Nuked Traverse this morning, and the RAD levels are actually higher around the Midwest right now than they are in the Pacific Northwest. Some areas of the Pacific Northwest have had up to 8 inches of rain so far from the storm, and they're going to keep getting it all week. I think there's a little break in it today, but they've also had like 80-mile-per-hour winds. And in some places in the Midwest where the winds are picking up is where we're seeing higher levels. Now, nothing is over alert, but they're higher than average. South Benoit, Illinois, the average is 39. Maximum in the last couple hours has been 62. Warren, Michigan, averages about 50 right now, and maximum was 72. Oxford, Michigan is also running high. Pittsburgh, Philly, Chicopee, and Craig, Montana are the other cities where the averages are running high, but again, nothing has been reported over alert status yet. So we'll keep an eye on that, and anyone in the Pacific Northwest should really try to avoid rainfall as much as possible over the next few days. And this storm will move into the Midwest, possibly over Thanksgiving, and we may have snow from it. It's not too cold here now. It's 52, so I don't know. We'll see how that pans out later in the week. We had an article that came out over the weekend, and we're just going to hear more and more of this all the time, but you know, nothing continues to be done about it. This was from the University of South Carolina. Author was Stephen Powell. The date of this was November 13th of 2012. Even low-level radioactivity is damaging. Broad analysis of many radiation studies finds no exposure threshold that precludes harm to life. Even the very lowest levels of radiation are harmful to life, scientists have concluded in the Cambridge Philosophical Society's journal Biological Reviews. Reporting the results of a wide-ranging analysis of 46 peer-reviewed studies published over the last 40 years, researchers from the University of South Carolina and the University of Paris found that variation in low-level natural background radiation had small but highly statistically significant negative effects on DNA, as well as several measures of health. The review is a meta-analysis of studies of locations around the globe that have very high natural background radiation as a result of the minerals in the ground there. Timothy Massou, a biologist in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of South Carolina, and co-author Anders Moller of the University of Paris combed the scientific literature examining more than 5,000 papers involving natural background radiation that were narrowed to 46 for quantitative comparison. The organisms that were studied included plants and animals, but had a large preponderance of human subjects. The scientists reported significant negative effects in a range of categories, including immunology, physiology, mutation, and disease occurrence. The frequency of negative effects was beyond that of a random chance. There's been a sentiment in the community that because we don't see obvious effects, that they're not there, but when you do the meta-analysis, you do see significant negative effects. Every physician in the United States and Canada and the Northern Hemisphere, for that matter, should see this type of research so they can adequately protect their patients. Even with the levels of contamination that we have seen as a result of nuclear power plants, especially in the past, and as a result of Chernobyl and Fukushima and related accidents, there's an attempt in the industry to downplay the doses that the populations are getting, because maybe it's only 1 or 2 times beyond what is thought to be natural background level, he said, but they're assuming the natural background levels are fine. And the truth is, if we see effects at these low levels, then we have to be thinking differently about how we develop regulations for exposures, and especially intentional exposures to populations, like the emissions from nuclear power plants, medical procedures, and even some x-ray machines at airports. Excellent article. I will drop this into chat for you guys to share. I came across a video this morning on YouTube called "That's the Reality of the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant Accident," and I didn't know that this was actually kind of an ode to a friend of this YouTuber who had visited Fukushima and developed a retinal detachment recently. In fact, he's having surgery today. So this guy had put this video out, and I watched it. It's pretty short. It's only 2 minutes long, and it shows the guy in the hospital, and he has like this pressure thing on his head because he's not going to be able to move his head after he has surgery, and he was just getting ready to go into surgery. And I know how bad retinal detachment surgery is. It's extremely painful. The recovery is awful. They put basically a belt around your eyeball that brings the sides of the eye up to where the retina is detached. And some of the comments that were on this page is, I doubt radioactive isotopes played a role in his displacement of the retina, but I hope he gets better soon. There's a couple of people that posted this as criminal, in my opinion, to let people in Japan be exposed to so much radiation. My prayers for his full recovery, get well soon. And then someone had wrote, if retina detachment is caused by ionizing radiation, then that's an interesting phenomenon. I'm sad because of your condition. Well, doctors have known since 1933 that radiation causes retinal problems, including retinal detachment. And I know this because I used to photograph it. I used to photograph it in children that were undergoing radiation for cancers of the head and neck. It's a very common side effect of radiation exposure. This is what radiation retinopathy is by definition, and I'll kind of break it down into layman's terms after I read this. It's an occlusive microangiopathy secondary to endothelial cell loss and capillary closure occurring after ionizing radiation treatment. In 1933, Stallard first described retinal inflammation and degeneration with exudates, hemorrhages, retinal pigment epithelium changes, and optic disc edema in patients treated with radon seeds for retinal tumors. Radiation retinopathy has been seen after both radioactive plaque and external beam radiation for ocular, orbital, and intracranial tumors, as well as Graves' ophthalmopathy. Radiation retinopathy is slowly progressive and has delayed onset of months to years after radiation treatment. The severity is dependent on the total dose, the daily fraction size, the fraction interval, and the volume of retina that's been irradiated. Usual daily fractions of radiation are, this is kind of technical, radiation retinopathy has been reported within 7 months and up to 8.5 years after external beam radiation, and between 4 to 32 months after radioactive plaque therapy. Patients complain initially of blurred vision or floaters. Multiple clinical features are found, including retinal microaneurysms, hemorrhages, telangiectasia, which means kind of like squiggly blood vessels that form, capillary dilation, cotton wool spots, which means that there's ischemia or lack of blood flow, macular edema. Macula is the part of your eye that you see to read with. It's only the central 10% of your eye. Everything else is peripheral. Perivascular sheathing, vitreous hemorrhage, central retinal artery or vein occlusion, tractional retinal detachments, and neovascular glaucoma. Okay, doctors have known this since 1933. So whether or not we're going to see more of this, especially in these kids that are now having tons of thyroid problems, I don't know, but there is a direct correlation. It has been clinically proven that radiation exposure can cause retinal problems, including retinal detachments, which if you don't get fixed, you will go blind from. Now, the initial symptoms of a retinal detachment are floaters and flashes of light. As the retina pulls off, people will sometimes see a flashing in the outer part of their vision. It tends to happen from the top down, but because everything in the eye is reversed, it actually looks like the bottom part of your vision is missing. So if you suspect that you have any kind of eye problems in it, you don't have to be exposed to radiation to get this either. You can get it most commonly after an injury to the eye, even if it was a couple years ago. You can get it if you're highly myopic or nearsighted because your eye is longer and there's more of a traction on the retina. You can get it after conditions such as if you're diabetic and you've had diabetic eye disease. But the reason that so many kids get this after they have radiation to the head and neck area is because the cells in the eye, there's a layer that they talked about, the retinal pigment epithelium, that kind of like pumps nutrition out to all the layers of the retina, and those cells don't work right if they're exposed to radiation. So liquid builds up because the cells can't get rid of it, and it starts to cause swelling underneath, and the more swelling there is, the more the retina kind of puffs out, and eventually it can detach or fall off. Now, they can sometimes just do laser to fix it if it's caught really early. Sometimes they'll inject a gas in the eye to push the retina up against the wall. But in severe cases like what this gentleman has who had recently visited Fukushima, he's going to have what's called a scleral buckling procedure, where they put a belt around the eye and they actually like make the eye smaller, the shell of the eye, to bring it back up to that wall of the retina. And sometimes they'll do laser with that too. It's not a fun procedure. And anytime you have any kind of symptoms that could be from a retinal detachment, you have to get it checked out with a dilated exam. You have to go to an eye doctor that can use the drops so they can check the periphery of the eye and make sure that it is attached, and if it's not, that they can do treatment as soon as possible. And hopefully you'll have insurance because it's super expensive. There was also a report that came out in Any News about thyroid problems. Now almost 100,000 Fukushima kids are having thyroid problems, and parents are understandably concerned. Fukushima Prefecture survey found that 40% of 96,000 or so children for whom test results are available develop thyroid gland problems such as nodules, lumps, or cysts. Despite parental concerns about radiation exposure, it remains difficult to say with any certainty whether the 40% occurrence rate is alarmingly high or not. The Environment Ministry commissioned the Japan Association of Breast and Thyroid Sonology to conduct thyroid gland checkups on 4,500 children aged 18 or under in 3 prefectures outside of Fukushima. Nagasaki Prefecture was chosen as a study area partly because of its remoteness from Fukushima, as well as the absence of obvious health issues stemming from the nuclear disaster and the presence of experts in thyroid gland testing. The Japan Association of Breast and Thyroid Sonology also plans to carry out similar tests in Yamanashi and Aomori prefectures. 100,000 Fukushima kids with thyroid problems. And they're saying they don't know if it's alarmingly high. So what are the symptoms of thyroid cancer? And just a quick breakdown on the thyroid itself. It's a gland that produces thyroid hormones, which are important in the normal regulation of the metabolism of the body. You can't live without a thyroid. It doesn't sound like a very important gland. In fact, thyroid cancer, the thought is always, it's actually easy to treat. You just take out the thyroid and then you take Synthroid, or you take, a medication for the rest of your life to make up for the missing thyroid gland. However, thyroid metastasizes really fast. So when you get it, if you don't get it taken care of right away, it can spread to other parts of your body rather quickly. And the other parts of your body that have the highest blood flow rates are the places where these cancer seeds will land first. The highest circulation in your body is in your brain, your eye, and your kidney. So after the thyroid, that's most likely where those things would land, where you would metastasize or the cancer would spread to. It's 3 times more common in women than men. There are 4 major types. And it says the cause of thyroid cancer is unknown, but certain risk factors have been identified and include a family history of goiter, exposure to high levels of radiation, and certain hereditary syndromes. The National Cancer Institute recommends that anyone who's received radiation to the head or neck in childhood be examined by a doctor every 1 to 2 years to detect potential thyroid cancer. The most common signs and symptoms of thyroid cancer include a lump, a nodule that can be felt in the neck, trouble swallowing, throat or neck pain, swollen lymph nodes in the neck, persistent cough, and voice changes. The only way to tell whether a thyroid lump is cancerous is by examining the thyroid tissue obtained using a needle or surgery for a biopsy. There's also a blood test that can be done called a CEA test. You can have a physical exam, you can have x-rays, CT scans, PET scans, ultrasounds, MRIs. All those things can be used to help establish a definitive diagnosis and determine staging. Well, right now I'm kind of at that point where I need to get something done about mine because it hurts and because it's been bothering me for a while. The first course of action is about $3,000 worth of blood work, then a thyroid ultrasound. In fact, I have a place that I'm going to call today to see if they will do it at a reduced rate, since I have sent this clinic thousands of patients over the years. Surgery is the most common form of treatment for thyroid cancer that has not spread to other areas of the body. Radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and radioactive iodine treatment are also treatment options. The survival rate and prognosis of thyroid cancer depends on a few factors, including the individual's age, the size of the tumor, and whether or not the cancer has metastasized. It is not possible to prevent most cases of thyroid cancer. That's the last statement in this article. It comes off medicinenet.com, but had you known you were going to get hit with plume after plume from Fukushima, especially back last summer, and could have taken precautions, I don't believe that statement, you could have mitigated those effects and reduced the possibility of your exposure, but of course we didn't know. So I'll drop this link into chat too. There's lots of different links. I did a show last week for Charlie McGrath where I talked about some of the health effects that I've had. I will probably never go into as much detail as I went into on that show. It was very difficult for me to do that. It tied in with the death of one of my friends. But since I hosted that and it's been posted on YouTube, I've had a number of emails from people all over the U.S. that have had sudden onset of thyroid symptoms as well as other symptoms, and every one of them has said that it is not just them, but other people in their community that are having problems as well, and it's very alarming. Now, I came across another story also this weekend from KXLY.com. Baby boy born without arms needs help. And this is from Spokane, Washington. A Spokane couple is looking to help give their baby boy prosthetics. Jameson Davis was born without arms. Now at 7 months old, Jameson is a healthy 20-pound baby. He's so healthy and perfect to us, Brooke Davis, Jameson's mom, said. He's a miracle to the Davis family. After 2 miscarriages, Brooke and Jim Davis were thrilled to find out that they were pregnant with Jameson in 2011. However, at their 20-week ultrasound, it was clear that something wasn't right with the Davis's baby. I could see his face. His kicking heart was great, and at the end they told us there was something wrong with him. They couldn't really elaborate on it, so it was tough. Additional ultrasounds revealed Jameson did not have arms. Doctors still can't seem to explain why Jameson was born without arms, and they are afraid that they may never be able to. They warned us that he may not survive, but when he was born, he came out screaming. He was pink as can be. Everyone was like, he was so adorable. But as Jameson is beginning to teeth, he's also beginning to get frustrated because he can't crawl and he can't hold a bottle. That's why Jameson's parents are now trying to raise money to buy him prosthetics. He's trying to grasp things and he wants to hold the pacifier to his mouth. The Davises are headed to Portland at the end of the month to get him fitted for prosthetic arms. However, insurance will only cover 44% of the cost. The family is going to need $13,000 to cover the rest. The prosthetics will allow him to crawl, and they will have interchangeable hands. So one will be cosmetic and one will be for crawling, one will be for grasping. Doctors expect he will need new prosthetics every 18 months. Friends and family came together Saturday morning to raise money over pancakes and coffee. We love him and we want to do everything that we can. They need $5,000 in the next 2 weeks as a down payment, and then they'll need to come up with another $8,000 by the end of the year. There are 2 ways to donate money to the family. This article has those links included. What's interesting is that this same periodical is also posting a story about the tsunami debris, but nowhere in this article does anyone say anything about Fukushima fallout, even though this baby was conceived in the first initial weeks after the reactors exploded. Now, I'm just not making that correlation off the top of my head. This is a known consequence of radiation exposure. 2 decades after the Chernobyl disaster, babies are still being born with no eyes and no arms. This appeared in the Free Library by Farlex, and there's multiple articles on this. It's 17 years to the day since the massive explosion that caused the world's worst nuclear disaster. But the passing of time has not eased the suffering, and a new generation is now living with the legacy of the fallout at Chernobyl. Campaigner A.D. Roche has just returned from her 21st Mercy mission to the radiation-ravaged Belarus. More than 80 volunteers from the Chernobyl's Children Project spent Easter bringing vital supplies worth nearly €3 million to the former Soviet Republic. But Addie, dubbed the Angel of Chernobyl, still can't get used to the devastation she sees around her and said it was getting worse. So this article was written about 8 years ago. At that time she was 48. She said, "It's a living hell. The people talk of an enemy, but they can't define it. They can't see it or hear it. I used a radiation detector there, and I just watched it jump off the scales in so many areas. The UN has accepted the level of radiation in Belarus, even though it's more than 50 times the accepted level. It's a constant shadow on life, and it's only now that we're seeing the true extent of the damage." Article goes on to say on April 26th of 1986, one of the reactors at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded, emitting deadly radiation 100 times greater than the Hiroshima A-bomb. Where have we heard that before? 30 people died in the blast, and the lives of an estimated 9 million people were damaged by the fallout. 70% of the radiation fell on Belarus, and nearly 2 decades later, babies are still being born with no arms, no eyes, or stumps for limbs. The children who were children in now 1986 are having babies, and the erosion of the nation's health is just startling. The world has never faced a tragedy like this, and we don't know how to deal with it. We can't just send in the army. Nothing can be done to stop this. The government's on its knees. It will cost 32 annual budgets. That's $235 billion to treat this in the next 5 years. No country could deal with the legacy left behind. Chernobyl has been just wiped off the international agenda, and we can't get the word out any longer. It's nearly 12 years since Addie had set up the Children's Chernobyl Project in Ireland. At that time, the charity has sent more than $30 million worth of aid and brought 10,000 children to Ireland. This is just the beginning, and I had a woman that contacted me by email last week. I don't know if I mentioned it on this show or another, who is a friend who's an OBGYN in the Chicago area, and he is very alarmed by the trend of birth defects that he has seen in Chicago. He wants to talk to me about it, but he wants to see my bio first, which I'm updating for him, and I'm hoping that we will be able to get him on the show. It's unlikely. I think we're probably just going to end up corresponding by email, but this is something that we're probably going to need to get used to. And these kids are going to need help. And this is going to be expensive. You know, thank goodness for Obamacare in 2014, so the government can help you fix the problem that they said didn't exist. Now, another way that you could tell possibly that you may have radiation exposure or a significant thyroid problem are if you start having grooves in your nails that run horizontally instead of vertically. It's something called Bose syndrome. It was named after a gentleman who was best known for his research on the heart and lungs, but he noticed this condition in some of his patients. They call it Bowes lines, and that occur when the nail matrix is injured and the growth of the nail is slowed. This can happen if you slam your finger in a door or hit your finger with a hammer too, of course, but when it happens on all your nails, it's a systemic cause most likely, and it's actually something that you need to see your doctor about because it is significant. It's most commonly caused by an injury or dropping a heavy object, but it can also signify an illness that affects the entire body rather than just one organ, or of a congenital disease, which means it was acquired during the body's development in the uterus. Whatever the reason for the slowing or halting of nail growth, it will result in transverse ridges on the nails, which look like pale bands lying horizontally across the nail plate. They first appear at the moon or the bottom of the nail and then progress with the growth of the nail. In cases where the ridges are not caused by systemic illness, it will grow out with the nail and disappear. So that could also be another thing that you want to look for in yourself and in your kids. And it could signify that you have a significant thyroid problem or have been exposed to radiation. Now we had an interesting upload to YouTube this weekend too about cancer statistics from the CDC. And we had a little video that we're going to play. This is Patrick Penry, who interviewed with me on the Wide Awake News show last week. He covers Fukushima. He's covered the Plumegate really well. He covers a wide range of topics. He's a very, very intelligent guy, and I really enjoyed doing the show with him, and I hope that we will be working together in the future again as well. But we wanted to play this video where he is looking for the CDC data. Oh, Kurt's not there. Hey, Jules, can we call the CDC?
I don't know. Will we get into trouble?
No.
You don't think so?
That's what it's there for. It's just contact us.
All right. Well,
I dropped the number into chat a little while ago. I don't know if you still have it.
Yeah, I saw that. Let me, I think you put it. Yeah, there you go. It's in yours. Give me one sec, I guess. You want to call him, really?
Yeah, let's call him.
All right, can I mute up?
Sure.
Good afternoon. This is the CDC Emergency Operations Center. This call is being recorded. Watch Officer Rick Turner. Can I help you?
My name is Christina, and I'm recording this call too, just so you know. I wanted to find out where I can locate the cancer statistics from the CDC that are pertinent to the possibly following the Fukushima disaster from March of 2011, because I can't seem to locate any of that on your website, and it seems since we're almost at the end of 2012 that we should have those statistics available.
Okay. Have you spoken with CDC information yet?
No, this was the first number that we called.
Okay. Let me try. I'll give you the number and transfer you out. They may be able to help you sort through that and find those statistics. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 8 Eastern, and their number is 1-800-232-4636, and I'll be glad to transfer you. Stand by. I'm sorry, no, maybe I can't transfer you, but you more feel free to dial the number. I'm having a phone issue, so it won't let me transfer your call. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
So you're just going to hang up?
All right. Well, I did write down that other number. Do we try that or no?
Sure.
Kurt's back, too. Do you want me to try calling?
Yeah, why don't we play the video from Patrick, and then we'll call that 800 number.
Now he has no volume. Kurt said he was working fine, but right before the show, now he obviously isn't able to talk.
Just said WTF in his
Yeah,
chat.
and his clip's not coming through either.
All right.
They unplugged Kurt.
All right, well, you know what? We need to find out anyway, or try to find out why there's such a lag in the data being posted.
So it?
Let's call that 800 number.
All right, let's do it. I like how you came back and said, by the way, your call's being recorded too. All right, let me get this in here.
Calling CDC Info, a service of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If you would like to continue in English, press 1. Si desea continuar en español, por favor presione el 2.
November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. More people die from lung cancer than any other type. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you do, quit. If you need help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. To learn more, visit www.cdc.gov/cancer/lung.
If you are a medical or healthcare professional, press 1. If you are a member of the media, press 2. For all other questions, please
press
press
1.
3. To repeat this,
Is this the medical show?
If you are a physician who is directly involved in the medical care of patients affected by the current meningitis outbreak and would like to speak with one of a group of participating infectious disease medical experts from CDC's Clinicians Consultation Network, please press 8 now.
if you are a clinician or medical practitioner calling about a patient, press 1. If you are with a state or local health department, press 2. For questions about infection control precautions or workplace exposures, press 3. For questions about immunizations and immunization schedules, press 4. For questions about malaria, international pre-travel advice, or vaccination certificates, press 5. To repeat this menu, press the star key. To return to the previous menu, press 9.
So what do? We weren't
How
any
about
of those.
press 0, maybe?
I'm sorry, your response was not understood. Please try again.
If you are a physician
They
who is
make it so
directly involved in the
difficult.
All right,
medical
let's-
care of patients affected by the current meningitis
What are you gonna
outbreak
do?
and would like to speak with one of a group of
Go back to
participating
9.
infectious disease medical
Yeah.
experts from CDC's Clinicians
Yeah,
Consultation.
we'll go back. We'll go back to the
November
previous.
is Lung Cancer
I can't
Awareness
believe
Month.
this.
More people die from lung cancer than
look
I
at
any
was
other
going to
type.
predict that
If you
this
don't
call will
smoke,
take the
don't
rest
start.
of the show.
If you do,
Yeah, look at how
quit.
difficult they
If
make
you need
it,
help,
though.
call
How horrible is that?
1-800-QUIT
They
now.
bore
To
you
learn
to
more,
death,
visit
so you'll hang up.
www.cdc.gov/cancer/lung.
If you are a medical or healthcare professional, press
I
1.
think we should be members.
If you are a member of the media, press 2.
Student-
For
Let's try
The
that.
Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration are currently conducting a multi-state investigation of fungal meningitis among patients who received an epidural steroid injection. CDC is working with state departments of health and state boards of pharmacies to investigate this outbreak. Patients concerned about which product was used in their procedure have been instructed to contact the physician who performed their procedure. For more information and updates on this outbreak, please visit www.cdc.gov/HAI/outbreaks/meningitis/HTML or call 770-488-7100. All media-related calls are handled by the CDC Media Relations Office.
Oh,
Please call 404-639-3286 for assistance. Again, that number is 404-639-3286. Thank you for calling CDC Info.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
I knew it. Oh, they suck.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can. So now what?
There was nothing just for like a regular person to ask a question. Where's
Yep.
that option?
Yeah, I don't know.
If we call this media number, then they're gonna make you wait and have somebody contact you, and Let me go back to
that. So if you needed to get it later.
All right, let me go back. Let's see. There's all kinds of emergency numbers. I guess there's a CDC, National Center for Environmental Health, and an Agency for Toxic Substances and Diseases. I think that might have been the original one that we called, but then it didn't even offer you a choice to talk to anybody about that. There's a number to report an emergency. Yeah, there's an emergency that's been going on for like 19 months now. Is that anyone going to address it? That's the thing about this website too, is that like the only thing they have on there about the nuclear stuff is if a reactor explodes near you, that you need to get away from it as quickly as possible. That's like the only thing they have on here about nuke stuff. There's nothing about low-level radiation. There's nothing about airport scanners. There's nothing about smart meters, cell phones. All of it. This is your Center for Disease Control and Prevention. That's not giving you the information that you really need to know. And I don't really see anything else on here. They have like contact cdc-info, which is just going to be a recording.
Hey, Christina, let me try and play this clip again.
Okay.
If it comes
through. In the
through.
meantime, I'm going to look and see if we've got another number that we can maybe talk to somebody.
All right.
Hey, YouTubers, anti-nuke activists. Look, I didn't do a really comprehensive search, but my initial search into any recent cancer fatality statistics has left me with the conclusion that the most recent numbers available are from 2008. Some maybe 2009, but nothing that I'm looking into in this last, what would be 18 months, 12 to 18 months, especially since March 3rd of 2011. What I want to find out is what's the increase in cancer rate? Are the cancer rates beginning to go up, and if so, by how much? And if not, well, I need to know that. But I go to the CDC, number one, and no matter what kind of cancer I look for, cervical, lung, ovarian, prostate, skin, and then some of those break it down by other kinds within that particular one. Well, the best I can do is it'll say in 2008, the most recent year numbers are available. And then it'll give you some statistics there, but that's it. 2008, I can't get 2009, 2010. That's not going to do me. I want to know after Fukushima, after the plume, after the fallout. So I've looked at other sites as well. Let's see what we got here. National Cancer Institute, same dealio there. Nothing recent enough. 2002 to 2008 generally are the studies there. I go to U.S. News Health, and this study that they're talking about in here also is, 2010. So 2010 is not going to work either. Here's from Eureka Alert, a link to American Cancer Society report on breast cancer. But again, it's not, let's see, 2011, which appears in the cancer, 2004. Okay, here we go. Now, okay, right down here from 2004 to 2008. The study is published in 2011. That's my little confusion there. Sorry. The study is published in 2011. Yeah, the findings are published in Breast Cancer Statistics 2011. But down here, if you look, again, 2008, 2004 to 2008, 1998 to 2007, 98 to 2007, okay, 2008. Nothing in the time range we're looking for. So that's my point being, if anyone has any link or lead on recent cancer statistics, cancer index would be like the mortality index. I want to see how much it goes up per capita. I am very much interested to know. Please inbox me on my YouTube inbox. I don't much get into the comments things these days. I'm very busy, but if you come across something from 2008, particularly, it'd have to be after March 11th. It could be a little bit before for a baseline, of course. We'll need some time before, but then after 2011, and especially going into this year, I'm interested in any recent cancer statistical studies. So that's it. But to be noted right now, an initial search by some of the big ones, they're not looking in that area. They go as far as 2008. Why? I don't know. Wouldn't at the end of every year you tally up the results at the end of every year? That would make sense to me. So something's amiss with this as well, that they're not staying atop this cancer statistics, because it's awful suspicious after Fukushima. No one seems to be worried about it, right? All right, that's it for now. Over and out.
All right, I found another phone number for the Division of Bioterrorism Preparedness and Response. So we're gonna give that number a call and see if someone will talk to us, since basically we are under attack.
Christina.
Should I tell them I'm calling from FEMA Region 5?
Yeah, go for it.
You have reached the Division of Preparedness and Emerging Infections. Please leave your name and number, and your call will be returned. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. That's all we get.
What is that?
That's all we get.
That's messed up. So they obviously don't care.
They've got a number to report an emergency, but I mean, I don't know, like...
No, that would probably get us into trouble.
Well, if any of you guys come across any data or any links to any data, we'll try to track somebody down there to talk to us. And obviously we're going to have to do this off air because they're not going to make it easy for us. Under the report and emergency page, it says if you are a member of the general public and you believe you've been exposed to a biological, chemical, or radiological agent, or you believe an intentional threat will occur or is occurring, please call 911. So they push you off on your on your local law enforcement, who will just tell you to call the CDC. If you're a health professional or government official, we already tried that number. It didn't get us anywhere. So, yeah, I guess I could try emailing them and see if maybe we can get somewhere with that. So thanks for bearing with us for that. We do have a couple of other interesting explosive developments. One, of course, is the ongoing sinkhole situation where a state expert has said a major explosion is possible in the area of the sinkhole because of the methane buildup. They're flaring off the gas in that area now, and the geologist is recommending that people that have not evacuated, that are not under the mandatory evacuation order, have their houses tested for any gas buildup. So, I mean, they're washing their hands of the situation. If something does blow up, all they're going to say is, we told you it could happen. And this isn't the first time that they've talked about this. Exploded oil rig leaves 2 missing, 4 critically burned, and 11 walking wounded. This was published November the 17th by Deborah Dupree in The Examiner. A Houston-based company's Gulf of Mexico oil rig fire and explosion on Friday off the coast of Grand Isle left 2 workers missing, 4 burned, and 11 walking wounded. After a fire and explosion on the Black Elk Energy oil rig Friday, 2 workers are missing. West Jefferson Medical Center in the New Orleans area transported people to the burn unit. The burn men are in critical condition with 2nd and 3rd degree burns over most of their bodies. 26 people were aboard the oil rig. It was not drilling at the time, and it occurred as they were using a torch to cut a pipe in which there were possibly 76 gallons of fuel that ignited. It sounds like it was a pretty big explosion. And this follows another oil rig fire that occurred a few weeks ago near the Mercando well site. And then, of course, we still have oil sheen and so forth that's showing up from that site. So our prayers go out to the people that were injured in that accident. It is a dangerous line of work to begin with, and who knows what the added risks are now with all these methane releases and geological activity. The Indy Star is also reporting that authorities are calling the Richmond Hill explosion a homicide case, and they're seeking details on a white van that was seen in the area. This was posted today. Law enforcement officials Monday confirmed what many residents at the site of a deadly blast on the south side November 10th suspected: foul play. Officials made clear that they think the home explosion that killed 2 people and damaged 86 houses in the Richmond Hill subdivision was not an accident. At this time, we're here to inform you we're turning this into a criminal homicide investigation, Gary Coons, chief of the Indianapolis Department of Public Safety's Homeland Security Division, said at a news conference. But Coons and other officials declined to say why investigators from the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Indianapolis Fire Department came to that conclusion. All they're saying, the prosecutor's saying, the continuing investigation includes witness interviews and search warrants, and that authorities are seeking information about a white van that was seen in the area. There's also 2 rewards that are being offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the blast. If anyone has information about the white van seen in the Richmond Hill subdivision the afternoon of November 10th, we ask that such information be communicated. Now, Richmond Hill residents were told about the developments during a meeting at Southport Presbyterian Church to update them on the rebuilding. Some of those who attended said they were saddened but not surprised. Most people figured that something like this had to be more than an accident, said Doug Ulrich, who runs a crime watch program in the area, especially with a large police presence that's been there all week. For about 3 weeks, he had seen a white van in the neighborhood and in front of the house that's considered the epicenter of the blast. He said it was a windowless work van about 15 years old. It was out there every other day, said Aldridge, who did regular patrols in the neighborhood, but you don't just see a van and automatically say that's suspicious. Chris Sutton, 29, an electrical engineer who lives in the neighborhood, said it was kind of scary that the explosion might have been criminal, but people were beginning to think that anyway. At the same time, he says it gives us peace of mind. We wish it didn't come to this, but it's beginning to answer some questions. Another person, Karen Atwall, 20, of Andrewsia Lane, said she was disturbed by the news. You wouldn't expect this from the neighborhood. It's very shocking. The explosion flattened 5 homes and damaged 81 more of the 125 homes in the subdivision. Earlier on Monday, funeral services were held for the 2 killed in the blast, Dion and Jennifer Longworth, a couple in their mid-30s who had lived in the home adjacent to the epicenter. Now, under Indiana law, a murder charge could be filed in connection with the death of the Longworths if investigators find the explosion was the result of foul play. The law says that a person who kills another human being while committing or attempting to commit arson also commits murder. Much of the focus of the investigation so far has been on the home of Monserrati Shirley, 47, at 8349 Fieldfare Way, where the blast is thought to have originated. Attorney Randy Cable, who represents Shirley, said before the announcement that he and his client would not comment on it. So there's still a lot of investigation that needs to be done here. They have not revealed why they think that this was foul play, except for reports of the van. Now, last week we read from a gentleman, professor who works at Purdue University and studies explosions, that it looked like a methane explosion to him. Now, the woman that owns the house, who was not home at the time, says she doesn't know why her house exploded. She's denied assertions made by her ex-husband that the home's furnace was malfunctioning and could have caused the blast. She said she was having problems with her home's heat several weeks ago, but the thermostat had been replaced and the heat restored. Since then, there hadn't been any gas-related issues, and they did rule that this was not related to a gas explosion. This is a pretty lengthy article. The couple that owned this house had divorced. It sounds like there was some a bankruptcy involved. There were some domestic abuse charges, domestic disturbance calls to the police, and assaults, misdemeanor battery charges that had been filed against the husband. And then the house had been on the market for about 8 months, and they were unable to sell it. So the most updated news that I've seen on this is on Indy Star. The interesting thing is, like, 3 more houses have exploded since then around Indianapolis. Some of them rural. One was a restaurant. This also occurred around the time that there was a fairly significant earthquake about 120 miles southeast of there in Kentucky. I believe it was a 4.3 the same day, about 12 hours before. So we still need to keep an eye on the faults and possible outgassing from these faults that could lead to explosive events, anywhere from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up through the New Madrid, St. Lawrence Seaway, out near Nova Scotia, where it goes into the Atlantic. Now, Thursday is Thanksgiving. I'm planning on doing a live show Thursday. Of course, I didn't check that with Jules yet.
Yeah, I should be around. I mean, it's only an hour, so we could swing it.
Okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for that. I might read a story, kind of do something a little different, depending on what the news is. I know Red Dawn is coming out, I think, tomorrow. And it's a remake of a movie that came out in the 80s where we were invaded by Russia, and they took out a lot of our major cities with nukes, and then decided against using nukes because they were worried about the fallout. I don't even know who's in the new movie, but I know it's coming out tomorrow. So I'll see if maybe I can find a passage from that movie that relates to the nuclear stuff. But I know that this Thursday that I am very, very thankful to all the wonderful people that I have met because of Fukushima. And that, of course, includes Jules and Kurt and everybody associated with UCY. And Jules is bringing more and more people on board to the station all the time. We have a bunch of new hosts that are starting. Kevin Allen, doesn't his show start tomorrow?
Yeah, he started one show last night at 6 p.m., Hacker News, and his other show starts tomorrow night at 7 Eastern Standard Time. So
the master of many things is back. And we wish him the best of luck, as well as all of the other new people that are starting on UCY. And I don't even know everyone because it's like a huge list. It's very exciting, and it's very nice to be a part of it. And stay safe, everyone. We will see you on Thursday. Thanks, Jules. Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, I got it. That's good.
Words are flowing.